Hi, Georgia. Welcome to the Star Report.
Hi, Sharon.
Would you like to start by introducing yourself and telling us what it is you do within the fashion industry?
So my name's Georgia, and I work in basically brand and business development for fashion brands.
Okay, so the mission basically of this episode is like, you were born and now you're here. You need to fill us in the in between and how you became the fashion legend that you are.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, well, a lot's happened in that time. I was born in London, but grew up in Spain. And basically, my parents always really encouraged me to travel and to just be open to new experiences. And I'm really grateful for that because I feel like the places where I learned the most is traveling and meeting different, like lots of different people with different outlooks in life.
Yeah, like different cultures will always be very beneficial. But obviously, you just said your role is like you do like sales and development kind of thing.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about what that kind of is? Like, what does that do?
What does that entail? So, I mean, I think there is a lot of brands out there that have such incredible product and they are very creative, but it's kind of just me working really closely with the designer to understand what makes them tick, what message they're trying to get out into the world, and then I'll almost edit and suggest a few things that might make that translate into a wider audience to allow them to actually sell their product.
Well, that sounds massive. But to be honest, in the time I've known you, you've always done a great ordeal in all your roles. So maybe like, what does a day in your life kind of look like? Because you do so much, there's not really a set day, or kind of do you have like a bit of structure? What would it look like?
I think, well, I always start my day with a bit of space for myself to kind of just read up on things that are happening in the world, because you really need to know what is going on in order to know also what that customer might be thinking and feeling at that time. You have to be really sensitive to what's happening.
It's nice you're so
in the
aware.
world.
Not a lot of people choose to be aware.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important when you are in a sales role to also know your audience and know the people that you're selling to, and I just think it's important for the world to try and be aware as much as they possibly can, especially in this industry. But yeah, so I'll do that and then probably start with something as simple as just checking my emails. And as someone in my role, you have to really have your fingers on the pulse and be able to just jump in and jump out and to pivot. And especially when you work in a startup, your role is going to be wide. And I think that's the beautiful thing about a startup is that you can dip your finger in many pies and you'll never be bored. You've got to be really agile and just adapt. And I think that is what I do every day, which is why I think to you it seems like it's such a wide area role, but actually it's just about taking action.
Action girl.
Yeah, exactly.
So when did you kind of know that it was fashion that you wanted to pursue? Like, was there a moment or when did you know?
To be honest, I still don't know. And I think that's the beauty of it. I think inherently I am a creative person and I like to mix things up. I fell into fashion almost by an opportunity that I was given to go and intern at Vera Wang. My first love and my main love will always be painting and art. So I was doing that and, I was kind of worried that maybe I wouldn't be able to find work doing something like that. And then I kind of fell into fashion. But everything I do in fashion definitely is coated with some sort of artistic, creative manner that I think comes from my love of painting, if that makes sense.
I didn't know you painted.
Yeah.
Well, I can see it now. You are very artistic. But I didn't know you painted. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's kind of my outlet for just letting go and relaxing.
Like a little Picasso. Are you more like avant-garde or are you more, you like to paint things?
I'd like to paint landscapes.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, and whenever I'm away, like I've just been away in Greece, I was drawing. It's just, it's just another outlet, I guess, you know, and I think that that's why my role has changed so much, because I'm open to change. As I grow as a woman, you know, my morals and my perceptions and how I see the world changes, obviously. You know, so what I was doing maybe 5 years ago is very different to what I'm doing today, but it all, at the heart of it, comes from the same place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah.
So in terms of like building a way to your career, most people do like mandatory school, and you did that. You did mandatory school, and then most people like proceed to higher education, but you didn't go to university straight away. You went.
No, I
a different
didn't.
path.
Yeah, so after school, I got this internship. So for me, I was like, well, I can't not take this opportunity, going to Vera Wang to work in New York. So I went and did that, and as I was doing that, I applied to universities, and it became apparent that before going to university, I needed to do a foundation course. So I came back to London after my internship, and I did the foundation course. And then from there, university kind of came in.
Yeah.
But again, you know, none of these things were forced, and none of them were things that I knew I definitely wanted to do. It all happened just by taking the next right step. It just happened.
So what was it like? Like, obviously, you've worked in fashion for a while, and I don't want to say 10 years ago was a really long time, but because it's not. But, you know, it was quite different. What was it like interning 10 years ago? Because obviously, I finished interning not too long ago.
Yeah.
So it's like now I'm getting into my roles, and I see that there's quite a difference, because, you know, you can see the difference probably when I'm working as an intern and probably when you were doing things as an intern back then.
Yeah, I mean, it was really... It's funny because the design side of it, I did a few months in design and a few months in press. And they were very, very different. Design, I felt very safe in design. You know, people would just come in jeans and a jumper, and we'd just draw and just pick fabrics. And it was quite special, you know. A lot of the time was spent sitting in a store cupboard, picking through fabrics. And it was just a really beautiful creative period. And press was all go, 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 and probably a lot more like what you see, you know, when fashion is portrayed in an internship.
Yeah.
But I was very blessed. I had very good experiences interning. But I think that's because I didn't approach it as an internship. For me, it was very much a job.
Yeah.
And I loved it. But I also just really thrived being away from family and being in a different city and traveling, and I really made the most of my time. I mean, I was exhausted every day, but you can be.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what your 20s are about.
Yeah. And while you're young, it's easy to like kind of not easy to bounce back, but you have more energy and more like enthusiasm to want to go further.
And I think, you know, your 20s are about being, for me, just really pushing yourself to kind of figure out what you don't like, you know, by trial and error. Like, that's what it's about. And to be honest, I'm still doing that now. You don't need to know what you want to do. If you just do what feels right in that moment, the next moment will figure itself out for you.
Well, that wasn't your only overseas internship. You also interned in Seoul. Mm-hmm. What was that like? Who was that with?
I loved it. It was with Junji, a menswear designer, luxury menswear designer.
What was that?
I loved it. That was the best experience. You know, everyone in Seoul was incredibly kind and welcoming. It was a very warm experience. They looked after me so well. They taught me so well. They fed me so well. It was just so foreign to me that it really pushed me in a different direction and in a different way. You know, I just learned so much about myself in that experience.
You speak the language, isn't it?
No, not really. No,
Not really.
I can say a few words, but probably more than when I was there. But it was a lot of Google Translate.
Well, at least they were open to like having the translation be receptive. But where did university tie into all of this? Like, if you're doing all these amazing things, Vera Wang, luxury menswear, how did university tie into all of this?
Easily. Like, you have a lot of school holidays when you're at university, and also St. Martin's encourage you to do a sandwich year, which means in your third year you go and do internships.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, Vera was before I joined before I started at St. Martin's. And then Junjae was my first internship whilst at St. Martin's in my third year. And then from that, I then came back to London and joined a company called Ports 1961, which I think to this date has been my favorite job, so to speak.
Really?
Yeah, it was just an amazing thing to be a part of. It was all women from Central St. Martin's who were kind of redesigning this brand. It was in Clerkenwell. We just had so much fun, and they were just the most beautiful, kind, stylish women designing an incredible product and being really conscious about it and being very aware. And I actually continued doing that into part-time into my final year. And that became a job. And that was kind of how everything really, truly started, I'd say, because it just gave me a taste for working, and it set the standard very high as to what companies I would work for. And I don't mean in terms of brand name or identity, but I mean as in the love and the respect that I learned at that company. Yeah, they were amazing women, and it was just a vibe. I loved it.
Just a vibe.
Yeah, I loved it. I think it informed a lot of who I am today as a woman.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you went to CSM, which is undoubtedly one of the best design schools in the world. What was your experience there like?
Again, it was a very fortunate experience. It's what I love about it is it's full of people with an opinion, but they're not judgmental.
That's always lovely.
Everyone is super open to different ideas and to helping each other. And I think for anybody who ever wanted to go there, it is definitely worth it and an experience, but you have to be prepared to work incredibly hard. And, we were in the studio till it closed, and then first thing when it opened. And it's not like a university experience. It's very much like a working studio experience. And you learn not only from your teachers, but from your contemporaries.
Yes.
And it was just amazing. And I also learned so much about London because your teachers would send you out and be like, go find this buttonhole shop in the middle of wherever, and you'd go and you'd find, and you'd forage around London for things, and you were encouraged to, not spend loads of money, just go out and just find things and make things from whatever you find. And yeah, I had incredible teachers who I'm still very close to this day.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah.
I hope I can be close to university teachers when my time
Yeah.
comes. I think with obviously Central St. Martin's, you had like the world's next best designers were basically in your classroom. You're probably seeing people designing incredible things, thinking like, this is so abstract. And obviously no one was snood, like going to school like that. Everyone's probably really competitive, but not in a snood way, more in a...
Yeah, and I think we're all so tired and exhausted that no one has time to be mean to each other and to, be competitive in that respect. I think everybody there is very driven and competitive with themselves. And, we would be feeding each other and be like, you need to eat, you need to do this, because you'd be so in your design haze that you just would forget things. And yeah, I never had any like competitive against each other experiences. It was very much okay, I've got your back, let's do this. Like, okay, you've got a deadline, I'll go print it. Like running around. And, my teachers had taught some incredible people. So we had, not just for that reason, but there was an incredible amount of respect for the people who taught you. Yeah. But it was just a very like open, fun experience. And I wish I had really paused and appreciated it in the moment that I was there, because you cannot get it back. And I would do anything to go back and have like that experience again.
So that would actually be a good note. So would you recommend university like to people that want to kind of go into the fashion design space? Because you're not working in fashion design, but do you think that school kind of helped your skills as a fashion designer?
Enormously. I mean, so first thing is I use design in everything that I do. Like I use the creative that I learned in design to work with designers and have a certain level of understanding with them, to know how sensitive and how personal design is to them, to be able to, help take the brand forward. But also, I would absolutely recommend it because I just think there's no rush. It really informed who I am as a person. I have some great friends from there. But it just adds another layer to, you know, to everything that I do today. And I think it was an amazing experience, and I really wish I'd appreciated it more at the time. It just felt like everything was going so fast, and we were just in the studio all the time.
It's so nice that you say that, though, because I think everyone now sees, like, in today's generation, kind of that you can just do it yourself. Like, you don't need to go to school to be a fashion designer. You can do it yourself. But hearing your perspective on, like, going to a university like that and having those people teach you, there's things that are just, you can learn from other people as much as you can learn from yourself.
Yeah, and I think also, it's important to understand what other people are doing and what other people are designing and taking inspiration from. But also, the teachers there are some of the greats, and they have taught the greats, and they push you in a totally different way. I don't think I can't believe how conceptual my final collection was. Which was hugely inspired by South Korea. And it was very conceptual, and, I don't think I would have had the opportunity to do that and be so free without the pressures of having to sell product. It wasn't about selling there, it was just about really tapping into your true creative, and they bring that out in you, albeit with blood, sweat, and tears, they really do. And, we can all teach ourselves, I think if you really put your mind to it, you can, but how nice to be able to do it alongside other people. And they're not telling you to be anything other than who you are. They just have a way of pulling it out of you.
Yeah.
That is so special. And I was like, oh my God, where did all this come from inside of me? So no, I think, if you can do it, great. And if you need to work alongside, great. Take every opportunity that comes your way. But I wouldn't brush it off. I think it's that we have so much time on our hands. Everyone's rushing to do things so quickly because they want a result, and it tends to be because they want a financial gain, I think. Because of especially if you live in such an expensive city. But part of being at university is learning how to do things with no money.
Then you get experience.
Then you get your true creative out if you can make a garment from £10.
Oh my gosh, people do that.
Yeah, you go and you find old fabrics, you recycle, whatever it might be.
Well, I've heard so much about CSM, but are they the school that give you the fashion week, like that the final year people have their fashion shows? Is that?
Yeah, the press show. Yeah.
Did you have that?
We had a press show internally in the school.
What was it like? What was that like for you?
I loved it. It was amazing. I remember my legs just turning to jelly when everything went down the runway, like really to jelly.
Oh my gosh, so then you came and you did a walk with them after, like you walked behind them?
No, but it was just, the Masters show does that at Fashion Week.
So you've definitely had a full circle, like fashion, interning, then, going to university experience, but then you went into work. Do you think there was a big parallel between like what work was and what an internship was for you?
To be honest, I treated everything as a job. I never really treated anything as an internship, so to speak. But I think the pressures definitely start to mount on when you have big targets to hit.
Yeah.
That's just, different. But I mean, I didn't feel the transition so much from intern to job. Also because I was an intern at a company and then I got a job at the company, so...
Yeah, I want to ask about that. So that was your first role. So what was your first role?
A fashion design assistant.
So in terms of kind of bridging the gap between like, fashion design intern and fashion design assistant, was it like, so you did intern work and you also did assistant level work at the same time? Or what?
Yeah, I think when you're interning, you kind of you move into assistant work. As an intern, you are an assistant.
Yeah, I think, it is, because, you do have a lot of responsibilities. And everyone kind of thinks, oh yeah, you're just making tea, but it's not really that.
No, and I think a good internship doesn't have you just making tea. People should be able to make tea themselves. I think you can offer to make tea because the the people above you have a lot of pressure and they're working and they're very busy. But equally, I don't make my interns make tea all the time, you know?
Yeah, you're a great boss to have.
So, no, but, you know, I think lots of places are like that. I think it's definitely changing. It's becoming a much more conscious industry.
Yeah, so you can get a job after doing an internship at the same place. I think a lot of people always think, oh yeah, like after this internship, I'm just gonna like have to find another place. There's actually that whole, you can get the job after. How did you kind of like hone that? Was it just hard work? What was it?
It was just, no, I mean, I was just myself and working as an intern, and it just naturally happened.
So what did you progress to after being at Port?
I paused for a bit and went to my university and finished my final year. And then after that, I went into buying at Matches Fashion.
Buying is so different to your creative fashion designing self. Like I think I say it like almost every episode, like I cannot do spreadsheets, they scare me. Like
I mean, yeah, I didn't realize how different buying would be to design. I don't know why. I think I love designing, but I found it slightly isolating for myself and where I was at that point in my life. I think I needed something a little bit more what I thought would be social, and I wanted to travel a bit more. So that's why I went into buying.
So what is buying life like? You said travel, so you guys travel.
A lot of travel, a lot of admin.
So much admin.
But it's really great admin because you're kind of reading data and understanding where those customers are shopping, what size clothes they're wearing, where in the world buys more coats, whatever it might be. You're paying attention to the seasons. You're really following lots of different designers, and you're helping designers grow their business. And I think that that's where my mind for business suddenly came in. You know, okay, here are these brands, they're doing well. Here are the brands that are not doing so well. What's the difference between the two? What's the data telling me? Okay, what can I tell the brand? What can I suggest to the brand that might help them drive sales a little bit more?
Well, it's no doubt that you're amazing with numbers. When we were together, I saw you do so much work with numbers. Do you see, because you're such a fashion person,
I don't know
so
how
creative,
that happened, because
maths was
not my strong point. But I think when you're reading numbers that make sense in terms of when you're reading data that is informing something and you really can relate those numbers to something, then it's easy because it's logical.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're not doing algebra, which is also very logical, but it wasn't something that came easy to me. You know, but when you're reading analysis on sales and where things are going in the world, it then makes it very easy to use that information.
Well, you had a good time at Matches. Was it what you wanted it to be in terms of being social? Did that happen?
I think it was just a much bigger company than where I was before, and I made some of my bestest friends at Matches, and it just had a great energy. It was really good fun. It was also very hard work.
I can imagine.
I learned more than I think I've learned in such a space of time. You know, it was a lot of late nights, a lot of traveling, but it was so worth it.
So lovely.
Yeah, and there's some of my best friends, and I have so much respect for that company and just how much it supports young designers and just everything it does for brands. I think it's a really great partner, and it's very caring to work with, especially having worked with it on the other side once I left.
Yeah, so in terms of like applying for the role, like how did it kind of work?
They have a really straightforward application process. You know, you just send in your CV to their HR.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and on their website there's a careers page.
I like companies like that are just not really faffle, like just that you kind of...
Yeah, it's very transparent and straightforward.
Well, that's nice. But obviously you loved it there, and you've said you've had like great experiences, which is great. But like I always do like to get my guests to kind of speak about a not so great fashion experience. Did you ever have any kind of devil wear Prada moments in fashion? You never had any?
No, because I just wasn't like a die-hard fashion moment person. I think I really was there because I just loved the clothes and I loved the product, and I also did keep a lot of things separate, you know, my work and my private life.
You're really good at that.
Yeah, I think I just learned that they're two different things. And I don't, you know, I think it's what you make of it. I think there was one time where I was probably hungover and I was having McDonald's and I had to eat it in the bathroom because I got frowned upon for eating it in that wasn't a Matches, for eating McDonald's. But I just didn't, you know, that it's what you make of it. You know, it's what you, how you're feeling inside. I think it's, if you're confident and you're happy within yourself, those things don't really get to you. But yeah, the hangover probably didn't help my insecurities.
Well, speaking about balance is a good like lead into what I kind of want to ask you next. So in terms of like finding a balance, it's hard to find a balance when you're young, but it's hard to find a balance at any kind of stage. What advice would you give to us to kind of have that balance? Because you're so calm, like you drink matches, you're so calm, you're so soothing. Like you see Georgia, like you're not like you might be stressing, but you just look so calm and collected. Like how did you find that balance between like shutting off deadlines and getting out at like 6 or 5 or whatever?
I mean, I don't think I'm the best at leaving at 6 o'clock. Because I think there's a real difference between having passion for something and being a perfectionist. I think perfectionism is almost a, you know, from my experience and what I've learned when I've been trying to be perfect and trying to finish things perfectly, that's just an obsessive compulsive addiction. Whereas now I know the difference between perfectionism and being passionate. And being passionate about something is great. You know, having love for something is great and working hard, but you also need to find that downtime. And I think that's what I've realized, is there is a difference between being passionate and trying to be a perfectionist. I don't want to be perfect. I can't live my life trying to be perfect by staying late and having no balance. So that is what I've learned, and that's taken a long time, and I have to remind myself of that. Because when I was interning, I was staying till very late at night, and when I had deadlines, I would just stay late to finish them. But that is fine up to a certain point. But actually now, you know, I want to slow down and find that balance, but it is something I have to really work for. And I think the reason you don't see that fretting and that, it's like I'm like a duck, you know, and under the surface, my legs are moving really fast, but on top I look really calm. I think it's a challenge that I will always have, but it is something I actively work on, and I think when you're aware of it, you can kind of take a step back and say, okay, I need to leave. Even if I could stay and I have no plans, I need to leave so that I can realize when I get home I have spare time and I can do something. Otherwise, you start to resent your job.
Yeah, no one wants
you
that.
know, and resentments are a killer. So if you can just, even if you don't need to leave, try and leave and have some balance and realize that your work is separate from yourself and that your work is not your identity, then that's okay.
Oh, that's
Does that
such
make
good
sense?
That is such good advice. So after your time buying at Matches, what did you move on to do next?
I actually transitioned within Matches. I loved buying, but I wanted to also understand buying from, you know, I really wanted to understand the customer and who the Matches fashion customer is. So I moved on to the customer team to look after loyalty members of the Matches Fashion Curator program. So customers who repeat purchase, who keep coming back, and how we could reward them via gifting or customer experience. And so that's what I went into, and I absolutely loved it because I was still buying, but I was buying gifts to give customers. So again, reading the data, reading what their past purchases were, and seeing what would be a good gift to give them, what would be different, what would help them understand a new brand, what would support a new brand, what brands are sustainable, because can we give better gifts? yeah, and I loved that. That was actually such a cool experience because it was totally new to me. It was something that I never thought I would be doing. But you really get to understand who the customer is, and I think it's really important to know who your customer is from the actual data. Not who you want your customer to be, but who is she.
Yeah, that makes. But we love a good company that allows you to pivot, because some people are like, I have to leave if I want to do something else. But there are some companies that will allow you to.
Yeah, Matches is great like that, and I think a lot of companies are trying to be like that because then you keep good stuff, and also they know who your brand is.
Yeah. Well, it's no secret from the brands that you've interned with / worked with, you love luxury.
Yeah.
Do you find it difficult being in a luxury environment? Like, although you love it, it is a lot more demanding than, I don't want to say high street, because I haven't really had that much experience. I haven't had any experience really working with like high street brands. I've kind of stayed with luxury in the editorial side too. But do you find it like difficult being in a luxury space, or do you thrive in it?
No, I mean, I don't. I think that you should be able to adapt to any space that you're in. And it just so happens that that's a space that I have kept in. I think the reason I love luxury is I'm not somebody who often shops. I buy mostly secondhand clothing because I think it is, you know, the clothes that you have in your wardrobe, you can either resell or buy back. And I think luxury is true sustainability, you know, in terms of, what do I mean by that? As in, if you could buy one coat every so often, every year, every few years, that coat will last you 20, 30 years and it won't go to landfill. And then if you look after that, you can then sell it on. A lot of my clothes have been hand-me-downs from my mother or family friends. And I love the story that comes with it, you know. This is an old Jaeger piece that I bought from a lady in Notting Hill Market. And I just think that, you know, the the process that goes into making some of those clothes makes them last for a very long time. And it's not only good for the environment, but I think it's just a good circular economy.
Well, that's the true meaning of like sustainability, obviously, like kind of keeping things
I think you just don't want anything to go to landfill. So if you can keep giving it a lifespan, you know, I just took some things to somebody to help me restitch them because they were falling to pieces, but I know they have so much life left in them. So.
Well, yeah. That's called a capsule wardrobe. You definitely have a capsule
wardrobe.
Yeah,
I definitely do. I think, and a lot of it, you know, is my mum's old. I think whenever I go to like a special event or anything, it's something that my mum bought 20 years ago. And it's still in perfect condition because we keep everything in their garment bags. I keep all my shoes in their dust bags. And I'd much rather buy like that. But I also am like that when it comes to food. You know, after this, I'm going to the farmer's market. And I like that because it reduces how much plastic I buy. You know, there's just... And also, I love foraging. I love looking through shops, you know, old shops and finding nice things. I love going to flea markets. That's kind of just, yeah, I mean, that's definitely what I do in my spare time.
Well, then obviously after Matches, you kind of stayed in the luxury space and moved on to like a luxury leather goods company, which is actually where we met.
Yeah.
What was your time like there? Like, how did you find what you did in your role there?
It was a really diverse role and I learned so much. The founder is such a inspiration when it comes to, you know, how the business runs, and it's a really great sustainable model. No product goes into sale, which means it keeps its value for a lot longer. Yeah, and I was doing sales and business development there, but before I did that, I was working as a merchant, which is, you know, you're working basically with the designer really closely, understanding what the collection's about and pricing that collection, seeing where it fits in the market. Do we need it? Is there anything else we need to add? Is there anything we need to cut? You know, really, it's a really great editing process, I feel. And then working closely with production and then you're really the hub of the wheel as a merchant, with your finger on the pulse, connecting the dots between the different teams, between digital, e-com, content, the stores, with wholesale. You're kind of really just in the middle, making sure this all flows. And I did that for about 8 to 9 months, and then the company was just growing so rapidly that it became apparent that, I had to kind of let go some areas of it, which for me was quite hard to do because I loved all the areas so much. And then I really started to focus on creative selling. So how could we get the brand name out there? How could we work with wholesale partners in a really smart way, minimizing the risk? And then working on special projects and collaborations to acquire customers from brands that we also had similar, who we aligned with. But then also working, with aviation companies and hotels to get the product into the right hands in a really subtle way. So it was just a really great experience, and it's led me on to, my next chapter, which I start next week, for a similar sort of company, focusing on B2B and special projects. So that'll be fun.
Well, I remember watching you work, and I'd be in awe of what you do, because you just made it look so effortless. You did so much. And, some days you'd be meeting with Fort and Mason, some days you'd be meeting with Mr. Porter. You'd be talking to so many people, and that kind of comes from how you have such an array of backgrounds in so many different spheres.
Yeah, I think that it's like a full circle thing, and I've gone from design to buying. So you do the design, and then you're working on how to sell it, and then really understanding the customer, to then going in-house with a brand and basically doing all those things in-house with just one brand rather than with multi-brands from the other side. And that allows you to be so much more creative if you're in-house, especially when you're working with partners on limited product, and so that you can get the brand name out there. But it doesn't feel as lots of separate roles to me. Everything that I've done informs what I do today.
Yeah.
And it's just experience. And someone gave me some really great advice, who is now actually CEO of Fortnum & Masons. And he just said to me, you don't need to know what you want to do right now. He'd worked around lots of different departments in John Lewis, and then became the CEO, because he'd had his fingers in every different department, and really understood how a business worked from creation of a product to output to then the analysis afterwards. And yeah, it was really a really good thing that he taught me, because I always thought, oh my gosh, you just have to be the best at that one thing that you know how to do really well. And I was so scared to break away from buying, because I thought, I should just build the way up there. But actually, I'm really glad that I did, because I learned so much in buying that I can apply in so many different ways and help grow brands. And also have the designer sensibility of, that it's such a personal thing for a designer, but then also knowing that the customer, what they actually think of it versus what the designer thinks of it, and knowing both. So I think it's really helped me. And I think it's important that if you are a creative in business, that you allow yourself to be creative by changing it up every now and then.
Yeah.
I like changing it up, and I like learning different things, and I think I'll always be like that.
Well, from what I saw, you kind of were the foundation. You kind of carried the team on your back, because everything kind of came back to you, because you kind of went out and worked with all different teams. I can only imagine, because you were basically like a one-man team. I remember even wanting to help you. It's your work was so complicated. There's because you're doing so many things, you don't know what you can definitely say that I could help with, because there was just so much that you were kind of going over. How did you kind of set your boundaries when you know that everything kind of fell onto you? You were the only one that could do this, because no one else kind of gets what you're doing, especially being a small team.
I think that might have been what it looked like, but I think also we were a very close team, and I think you just have to ask for help from your team. And they did help. And it's just the nature of the startup. It feels like there is so much and everything's falling on you, you know, but actually everything's falling on everybody because there's just so much to do. But that's the beauty of a startup, is that your growth, especially with how fast the growth was and how amazing the brand was doing, we just didn't care. We just wanted it to do well. So we just kept working to make it happen, you know, and then you find moments to pause and reflect.
Well, it's clear that you like to explore, you know, you've had your kind of time buying, fashion designing, all those kind of things. Did you ever get like any sort of burnout at any point? Because I think one thing that like I've kind of struggled with before is kind of burnout. And I'm sure so many other people struggle with burnout. And like when things aren't necessarily going how you think they'd go. I know you're more like free, kind of flowing. You don't really put too much emphasis on anything in particular. But did you ever go through any burnout or like get in a rut kind of thing?
I think... Did I get into burnout? I think, you know, I just think there's lots of moments of exhaustion. And I think it matches... Buying was just a very intense experience. And I think it was like my first role with a lot of pressure, and I didn't kind of know how to handle that because I'd never done it before. So, yes, there would be burnout points, but I was young. You just pull yourself out of it, you know? And I think in a startup, it is exhausting, but again, you know what you're there for, and you've picked a startup for a reason. So, but I think that I'm very good at pausing and taking time for myself at the weekends and doing things that are really wholesome to me, like painting or going to the farmers market, or, you know, those things that actually are so separate from what I do at work that it hasn't really reached that point, and I'm grateful that it hasn't.
Yeah. Well,
but I think it's up to us. I think it's a choice to reach that point.
yeah.
You know, I think that we have to stop ourselves from getting to that point by being able to take a break. If we work till 12 o'clock at night every night and then we reach burnout, you know, we need to pull ourselves out of that.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to do when you are loving something so much. But that's what I mean by the difference between perfectionism and passion. If you're trying to be perfect, to live up to somebody else's standard, you are going to be exhausted. But if you just do what you love from passion, but then you're able to take a pause and realize that you've done the best that you can in the time that you have to do it, that's the difference.
Well, I remember...
Easier said than done.
Oh yeah, definitely. But like, I thought we should all take from your calming kind of thing, because obviously you've had your experience, you've been here, you've been working in fashion for quite some time, so, and you're still here. So it's like your methods are definitely kind of working, and just taking that space and like creating the separation between your work life and your home life is really good, because I guess with fashion it kind of overlap, like when you're having so many things going on outside as well.
Well, yeah, because we do fashion because we love it and we have an interest in it, and we're so lucky that, you know, fashion, I mean, retail can be a hobby too. You know, it can be something that we go to exhibitions, we go to shows, and it can really be part of your life, and that's great if you can manage that. But I learned early on that I needed to have some distinction between fashion being my be-all and end-all and it just being my job. You know, and I can enjoy my job a lot more and enjoy what I do and helping brands a lot more if I have space for myself in my personal life. And you can apply that to any job, you know?
Yeah. Well, I remember one of the conversations I had with you like early on, and you kind of gave me that insight into like not having to know exactly what it is what I want to do. I feel like for so long I've kind of lived my life in a way where like, this is the goal, I have to do all these steps in order to get to the goal. And I feel like when I got to a point where I was kind of like a bit down and I came and spoke to you, you were like, it's okay to not know exactly what you want to do. And I feel like you're kind of one of the only people that preach that like it's okay to not know what you want to do.
I still don't know what I want to do. And that's the beauty of of life, right? That we can just enjoy today, where we're sitting today doing a podcast, you know, putting ourselves out there and enjoy that. That's the moment.
I think uncertainty used to scare me though. Like uncertainty really used to scare me, and I feel that's a lot of people. Like uncertainty, not knowing exactly what you're going to do next.
I think that's the biggest thing with society is that because of social media and that we have quick access to everything, we can't sit with the ambiguity of the not knowing. It is so fine to not know, and push back to just like 20 years ago, people used to not know what they were doing the majority of the time. It's only now that we can pick up our phones and know answers to everything straight away that it's bred such a need to know everything right now. And I think that whenever I was reaching burnout or a state of like, or just a state of low, it was because I needed to know the answers to everything. And it made me so nervous. And, you know, I think you have to just, if you keep your side of the street clean and you take the right action one step at a time, everything else will just fall into place. We might not even be in fashion in 10 years. We might be doing something different. Who knows?
I love the way you always say that though.
But it's like, true.
You're like, because you know you do like a lot of brand collabs with like different, like you do like collaborations with different things. Like you worked with airplane services. Like that's so different to fashion. It's just like wow, you can find passions and kind of everything. You can bridge the gap between everything kind of nowadays.
Definitely, I think you just have to be open and leave the door open to new experiences. You know, like look, other people it serves them really well to know exactly everything that they're doing. For me, it doesn't. For me, it just made me anxious. It made me stressed. I was like, I'm this age, I should be this place in my life, I should have this, I should have achieved this, blah, blah, blah. But actually, for me, it's better to just not think too far ahead. Otherwise, I miss the present moment.
Yeah, because I think that's like what you were saying about like your uni time as well. Like you wish you could go back and just kind of enjoy it. I'm sure like, because everyone was just looking at deadlines and like, oh crap, I'm going to have to go into the working world soon. Where am I going? How am I going to make money from doing this? I think no one really takes the time to enjoy.
Yeah, I was so worried about finances at university when actually, you know, if you're just doing the best that you can and you are working hard, I'm not saying you can just hand it over and someone will give you everything. No, you have to put in the work. You have to do the next right step. But that is good enough, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think if we're worrying about the future, we're not going to enjoy the moment. And then you wake up in 5 years' time and you wish you could go back and do something differently, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just live every moment, you know?
Well, I think I've been like depressing enough. So I think now would be a good time to kind of go into my TheeStyleReport special of Drab or Fab. So if you're new to my podcast, Drab or Fab, it's my feature. Okay. So if you're new to my podcast, Drab or Fab is like when my guest and I, so today it's you, Georgia, we're going to speak about things we're loving in the fashion space and things we're not necessarily liking or hating. And I'm really excited to get you to do this because you know your brands really well.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I haven't been following much as of late, but yeah.
But it's just about like what you love, really. So Georgia, what are you loving right now? Like what's got you?
What's got me?
Yeah, I've got to be there. I'm loving your shoes. Your shoes are really cute.
I love this new company called Reflaunt.
Never heard of it. What is it?
It's a new space that is helping brands buy back their clothes and resell them, and it's a reselling platform for luxury goods.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's really nice. So it's like if Balenciaga had a collection like years ago and they wanted to go and find like pieces of this collection, like people can put it up there kind of?
And the brand has control, so Balenciaga would also have some control of that. And it just adds value to people's wardrobe instead of having to go out and buy. Yeah, and they're doing it with Ganni at the moment, and Ganni will give you some credit back or 20% off. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's based in Lisbon, but they do a lot all over the world, and you should check it out.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely will do. I think, mine's not as deep as yours. I think right now, I'm really liking Tay Thong sandals. I think they're coming back.
Yeah, I love those. I just was wearing the Row thong sort of sandals.
It's the Row, the Olsen twins brand. Yeah. I've seen it quite a
Yeah.
few times. But I heard they're not comfortable. I haven't tried them
No, they're
yet.
super comfortable.
Really? Everyone's
Yeah.
like, no, it doesn't feel nice because some people have like heavy ones, I think, because you can get like the heel and it's
These are
like...
super thin and really easy to wear.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice. So what are you hating at the moment? Like, what don't you like? Like, it can exit stage left immediately. Like, this is not rolling.
I mean, I don't really know what I don't like right now in fashion. I think I don't like what's going on, obviously, in Ukraine.
Yeah, that's not cool at all.
No.
That's not good. I feel bad now. Mine just don't feel as...
No, that's that I don't follow so much what's going on in current affairs with fashion.
Probably why you're doing so well.
No, it's not what I really read in my spare time that much. So I'm probably not the best person to ask those questions to.
I think I don't like baggy clothes. I feel like everyone's wearing a lot of baggy things recently, and it's kind of annoying me. Like, I don't really like oversized hoodies are nice, but I just don't like people's trousers being like 8 sizes bigger than they are, and then you're tying it with like a hairband. Like, it's not making much sense to me at the moment.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's without a doubt that you are so experienced in like all different types of the fashion sphere, especially in luxury and especially in like normal real retail. Do you think luxury and retail kind of like feed off each other, or do you think it's more...
You mean luxury and high street?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think high street is informed by high fashion.
But I think in terms of a more way where, like, there's this page I began to follow called The Kimbo, and she will like find looks of people that were like wearing like designer clothes in like 2008. Like, there was this Versace dress that like someone wore in 2008, and she'll basically find it and she'll find the way it looks on the runway model. I think a lot of brands are starting to like copy high luxury designers' clothes.
Yeah, I mean, they
like,
always have. That's how high street is informed. They'll go and they'll buy product from high fashion brands and they'll copy it.
But I need to get everything I can out of you. So now it's question time. Like, you've given us your journey, but obviously being in the industry as long as you have and like being an icon, like obviously having...
Gosh, I feel still like a baby though in the industry.
You are very young though, but you started very young. I think that's why I'm like so happy that I started young. Because I see, I'm just like, yeah, like if I achieve what Georgia's kind of done, I'll be on the good.
That's very sweet.
But so in terms of the more kind of going into the sides of your business kind of savvy mind, if you've been such creative and you've always loved to paint, where did that business savvy mind kind of come from?
Gosh, I have no idea. I think it just happened, but I think that it's less business but more wanting to get the brands out there because I believe in them so much. I because the brands I've worked for I've loved so much that with Ports I just wanted to... I loved it so much. I wanted to be able to... I think that's why I went into buying, because I was like, if I go into buying, I can really show people these new brands. I can, help them build their business because I believe in them so much. And I think that that's why I can do what I do, because it just... When I love something so much, I think I naturally sell it because I just am such a fan.
Yeah. You can tell when it comes from like an authentic place. Like when you're speaking about these things, you can tell when it's like authentic and it's not just like, I'm trying to sell your product. It's like, I believe in this product and you should kind of do.
No, I really don't see it as selling in a way. It's just me wanting to introduce people to something that I really, really believe in, which is why, the brands that I work for, especially now and the one that I'm going to start with, it's because they have a sustainability element, or they're trying to be conscious and they're trying to do better. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, not at all. And it's nice that the brand is actually taking awareness of the fact that it doesn't happen overnight. I think some brands just like plaster sustainability on it. It's just like, yeah, we're sustainable. But it's like, how have you like moved your whole thing into a more sustainable way? But obviously, you've had an array of experience in a whole array of brands, basically, and positions. And I don't think there'll be a better person to kind of ask. Salaries fluctuate between like loads of different kind of spheres within fashion. Like, I'm sure like the fashion design salary is probably different to your salary that you might have gotten while you're doing buying. When you have all these skills that you have, how would you like hone a good salary to like show that you have value that you're providing? Like, how would you do that? Because your roles, they're not really things that you can like... I can't really go onto Google and search like sales and business development advisor. Like that doesn't really come up. Your roles are more tailored
I
to
think
like...
it just takes a natural progression, and each role that I've gone into has been a discussion with somebody that I have either already worked with or been introduced to. And it's come naturally, and the next role has built upon the previous role. And the financials have just kind of worked themselves out over time. And, I couldn't compare now my salary now to what I would have been making on a design salary. Like, I just have no idea what it would be. But I really don't think that that's something to worry someone or deter them from just following a natural career path. Although it feels like each role is different, they're really not that different. They all feed themselves, and that it's just a natural progression between them all. And I think that when you're having those job negotiations, it's just a natural conversation. And yeah.
So how about if you could give like one tip or like a piece of advice to someone that's trying to come and start within the industry? Like, what's something you wish you kind of would have known?
I don't know. I just think follow your gut and just do what you love. And if you find yourself falling out of love with it, give it a bit of time, push through. Jobs are jobs. There are going to be downs. There are going to be hard times where you're like, oh, this is really tough. But don't be scared to try new things, because you can't type into Google what that job might be and find it and find all the answers. Yeah. You make your own role.
See, you say that, and I think that's so cool. But like, how would someone do that? Like, how do you make your own role? Is it like you go to the brand and kind of show them all the value that you bring? And
I think it doesn't start that way. I think, you do something that is out there, and then as the company progresses, you might progress, you might change, and it just happens naturally. And that's coming back to my point of not worrying about what the next role is going to be. Enjoy the role that you're in. Yeah. And then it will just happen.
And obviously, since you are quite senior in your roles, like, you're going to be like heading departments and stuff like that, which is amazing. So congratulations for that. Mm-hmm. How would you kind of like help someone that kind of wants to shift in their career path? Like, you've obviously shifted, but like if say someone has like a background that's like, they've come up really like technical, like numbers and stuff like that, and all of a sudden they've decided they want to kind of go into the more design sphere, what kind of advice would you give to them?
I think, it's challenging, but you have to just, if you want to go into design, surely then you'll be designing on the side, drawing, creating a portfolio on the side, and then, you apply and you get feedback, and you might get rejected a few times, and then you might get something. You just have to try and persist.
Yeah. Like, just not giving up, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, and last one. So if you could go back to like your younger self and basically speak to her and tell her something that like you think would just help her in life as well as like working within the fashion industry, like what would you tell her?
Calm down, stop worrying, just enjoy what you're doing. Like, you're only young once.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I really wish I'd stopped being so worried at St. Martin's and just enjoyed it more, because it's an experience that's very hard to get back and to duplicate.
Yeah, because I worry a lot. Like, I worry so much about like what's going to come. And I think it's like the whole social media thing as well. Like, you're seeing everyone else in such amazing positions. Like,
yeah, limit your social media use, because it's just not healthy. You compare to everything. You want to be at one place at one time, and yeah, I just really wish I'd stopped worrying so much.
Yeah, because I guess comparison is like the thief of joy. Like, when you look at people so much, you're not gonna.
Yeah, and also you're different people, so you can't be like them.
Yeah, like circumstances and things are different.
Yeah, and it's it's not your business what people think of you.
Tell them again, Georgia.
Yeah.
Tell me again.
It's not your business what somebody else thinks of you.
And everyone's journey is going to be different. Like, we all have our own kind of
yeah, and we don't need to worry about what other people are thinking, like, we have enough worries. And, yeah, I mean, just enjoy and be open to new experiences, be kind, and just have love in your life. And that means self-love above everything else. You can't love anybody else or anything else if you don't love yourself.
Oh, that's great advice.
Yeah.
Well, Georgia, we're about to move on to like huge things. You're starting on Monday, which is like gonna be after for the people kind of listening. But like, what can we expect from you next? Like, what's next for Georgia?
I'm just going to manage B2B sales and special projects at a new luxury leather goods company, which I'm super excited about. Can't wait to work with them. They're people that I've admired for a very long time. But I don't know. We'll see, you know. I'm just taking each day as it comes and looking forward to new challenges and working with a different team, new team. It's always good. Learn a lot.
Well, Georgia, you've given such amazing advice, and this chat has been so amazing. So thank you so much. For those that kind of want to learn more about you and kind of get in touch with you, so they can like get insight from you, because obviously there's so much to learn, and you've told us quite a bit, but obviously there's so much more that you can share. Where can they contact you?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, your LinkedIn is amazing.
Thank you. I don't see it that way, but that's very kind.
What is your LinkedIn?
Oh gosh, I don't know. We'll have to post it. It's probably just Georgia Davies, I guess.
Yeah, we'll have to put your name
I don't.
And since you're about to be head of a department or something, do you think you're ever going to start hiring interns soon? Maybe for people that kind of want to work under you.
I'm not sure yet because we're just creating a new. It's going to be a new area, so I don't yet know much about it until we're there and we can see what's needed. It's already a very established place.
Oh, okay. So they probably already have their own
kind
of systems.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much for coming to talk to me.
Thanks so much for asking me.
No.
Well done. This is amazing.
Oh, thank you. No, you're like one of the best guests that I could ever have. Like, you're a legend and you're an icon.
That's very kind.
But thank you to everyone who's taken the time to listen. And I really do hope you've enjoyed the episode and learned a lot from Georgia's story. And yeah, be sure to tune into the next one.